Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to another Pokemon Sleep video. It's Bro Vinny here. Today we are talking about the 4 different sleep types: slumbering, dozing, snoozing, and balanced. So, balanced. And the common question is, how do I get the different types of sleep styles? Because different types of sleep styles mean different Pokemon. You might only want a certain type for a certain day. And this has been one of the most difficult videos to make to get accurate information because there's a lot of misinformation out there. And I don't blame them. The misinformation is there because all this determination calculation of which sleep style you get is server side. For any resource out there, any website out there that tries to tell you how to get different styles, they need to do their own research. They actually need to collect data and actually see what triggers each sleep style. And unfortunately, I can see that a lot of the websites, a lot of the resources don't actually do the research. And unfortunately, I also do not have a perfect answer for you, but I have at least done some research. And I will be able to shed some light into how you might be able to get a certain sleep style. And I'm also going to give you the advice some of my members have given me to control their sleep styles. And that the ones that I'm going to present to you in this video are the generally acceptably good ones. But it's not going to work 100%. And this is why. The most important thing you should know when you're trying to affect your sleep style is that actually the app will try to determine your sleep style relative to your average. So once you've slept a few sessions, the app will finally have a way of knowing what your average sleep style is like. And to my understanding, that average is going to be your balanced sleep style. So we're actually going to work backwards here and see how you can get a balanced sleep style, because that's sort of your 0 point. Now, this is a speculative thing, but it seems to be the one that makes most sense to me after analyzing the research sleep data from my members. Now, to begin with, you should also know that sleep tracking doesn't begin and end when you press the button. It begins from the first time you enter a deep sleep, so that's slumbering, and then it ends the last time you are in a shallow sleep. Although for my own research, it's there is some variability in that, because there are times where if you track 100% dozing, so 100%, and you've never entered slumbering, that can still track. So it's not a hard fast rule to say this, but the app generally finds the hours that you actually track sleep to be between deep sleep, the first deep sleep, and the last shallow sleep. So the first slumbering to the last dozing. And you'll see that I've referred to a different resource here. This is from Pokemon.com, and this is the FAQ rather than from the app itself. And that is because the information is all over the place. And another thing is, if you want to know what Pokemon is in each sleep style, I've translated these charts under quick guides. If you quick guides only have some of the most important information about this game. And if you scroll up a little bit, you'll see that some Japanese dude made these charts, and I just kind of translated them for each area. You can download this on my Discord as well. So for Greengrass Isle, for dozing, you get these Pokemon at each tier, and etc. with snoozing and slumbering as well. And you can see with each area what the different Pokemon are for each sleep style. With balance, it's gonna be a spread of all 3 sleep styles, which isn't necessarily good if you, for example, only wanted to farm Ghastly. You want to focus mainly on dozing in Taupe Hollow. And one more interesting thing to note is that certain Pokemon types tend to fall into each sleeping type. So for example, for dozing over here, it tends to have more grass types, poison, bug, and fighting. But it's not a perfect rule, because there are some fighting that are baby Pokemon. So baby Pokemon are defined in the main games that would fall under slumbering. So slumbering tends to have the baby Pokemon. You can see Pichu here, Bonsley here. And it seems like baby Pokemon override the type. in determining which category of sleep style it would fall under. But as a general rule, you see that poison types, so toxicrocia, arbok, or ghost types, they tend to fall under dozing. And for snoozing, we generally have the fire, the electric type Pokemon, and some normal type as well. As for slumbering, we tend to get more of the water types. So we've got Squirtle here, and then we get some ground types. So we've got Marowak there. And of course, we have the baby Pokemon in slumbering as well. Now, it's not a perfect rule because we can see that there are some water type Pokemon that are also in snoozing. So we've got Slowpoke and Slowbro. But you'll get a general idea of the spread of Pokemon in each style. So if you mostly only have slumbering sleep, you might only get mostly of one Pokemon type. So let's start with balanced sleep and see what I mean by the 0 point of your sleep. So let's have a look at Atik's balanced sleep here. You'll see that he's got 79% slumbering, 14% snoozing, and 7% dozing. And what's more important is just looking at the actual bar here to see the spread of the different sleep types. Now, I should probably refer to these as sleep modes rather than sleep type because the overall type that's determined is the sleep type. So how is it possible that Atik has a mostly vast majority sleep of slumbering, getting a not slumbering sleep type? Well, that's probably because for Atik, most of the time, he sleeps about 80% slumbering. Just about. There's going to be a little bit of range, like plus or minus 10% or something like that. I don't know the exact number there. But he's an averaging slumbering type of sleeping person. Because if you compare to myself, my balanced sleep type looks something like this. So this is a 6-hour session, and you'll see that it's vastly different if you look at the bar down here. It's vastly different to Atik's, who's mostly slumbering, and I'm mostly snoozing. Now we're going to move to another screenshot of another time I got balanced sleep type. And again, you'll see that the bar for me is largely the same. You see a little bit of yellow, mostly snoozing, and a moderate amount of slumbering. So that immediately tells you that balance for each person is different, and it's determined by that person and how they've slept in the past. And just to prove that point, if you look at my third balanced sleep type, you can again see approximately similar spread. A little bit of dozing, mostly snoozing, a moderate amount of slumbering. And this also happens in my fourth example. Now, of course, as you're tracking sleep more and more, your balance type may become skewed to one or another, but there should be some sort of close to average percentage for yourself for each sleeping mode. And here is the fifth example of my balanced sleep type. Once again, dozing, snoozing, slumbering, the spread is about the same. Now, there is a catch, there is a problem. There was one time when my balanced sleep type was completely different. And I've noticed this happen to a few people as well, where when you either sleep a very short session or you just never really entered slumbering. And remember that the app says that they will only start track sleep if you enter slumbering, or there's just too much noise. So this here is Slumbering Sylveon's balanced sleep, where it's 100% dozing. So what happened was she put her phone right next to the fan, so that the entire time the game thinks that she's just dozing because there's so much noise. So how come that's also balanced? And the one other time you can get balanced if you do add sleep, add manual sleep. So you can see that these balance sessions have exact numbers, because I usually, when I add manual sleep data, I usually add like exact 90 minutes or 120 minutes, and then there's no sleep session photo. So you can see these are the balanced sleep. Well, it's balanced because there's actually no data at all. So to begin with, you can already understand that any resource out there that tells you can affect dozing, snoozing, or slumbering in a definitive way is going to be wrong. Because I can't even control balanced. using any specific method. Now, I should bring up the point that the balance for add manual sleep data doesn't matter because you don't get to catch anything anyway. Okay, so back to this point, why is it that for balanced sleep, you can also get these really random numbers? Now, I'm going to say, this is speculative. Anytime the app gets data that is completely off the charts, like complete outliers, or it doesn't get enough data to actually give you a sleep style, it would just say balanced. And just to prove that point again, I've got Slumbering Sylveon's sleeping data here for balanced type. So once again, if you focus the bar down here, you'll see that for most of the balanced type that she has an about even spread of snoozing and slumbering and a small amount of dozing. And that's pretty much true for all of them except for the one outlier. So outlier here is the 100% snoozing. The game goes, oops, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just going to give you balanced. And that's okay. It had to give you something. It doesn't want you controlling the sleep types that you get. It doesn't want you to be able to give dozing just by putting it next to a fan. And that's okay. And then we look at another one. So this is back to her normal balanced type, because the spread is about even between snoozing and slumbering. So once again, another example. So this is from Hero Bunnymon, and you can see that the average sleep modes is roughly about mostly slumbering, moderate amount of snoozing, a little bit of dozing, again just following this line here. And once again, because it's determined by each person's average, so you can see that the balance type here, when I scroll through all of his balance type styles, that it's approximately mostly slumbering. They're all mostly slumbering, moderate amount of snoozing, a little bit of dozing. So that's Hero Bunnymon's balance type, their 0 point, in which other sleep types become determined. And you're going to see here, again, there's an outlier. So this is a short sleep session of about 2 hours, and there is no slumbering at all. So the game goes, that's an outlier, that's weird, I'm going to give you balance type. I simply do not have enough data to say that this is a snoozing or dozing type. And I don't want you controlling what sleep style you get. And then once we move back to, a roughly bigger spread of slumbering, snoozing, a little bit of dozing, that's again balance type. So this is all from Hero Bunnymon. Now you see now that snoozing is becoming more dominant. And it could be because the average is always changing. Every time you record a new session, the average would become skewed one way or another. So once again, if you're thinking there's one method to give you either slumbering, snoozing, or dozing, well, that method will eventually become nerfed because your average will become dragged that way. And once again, mostly snoozing now, and it's all balance types. And it makes sense because if you look at the dates up here, when I'm scrolling through Hero Bunnymon's, the dates are ascending. So from the 26th onwards, we've got 26, 29, August 7th, August 14, August 16, August 17. You'll see that the balance type, the 0 point, is slowly skewing towards slumbering. So any subsequent data is analyzed based on the new average. And I'm going to show you one more person's data. So from Maddie here. And the reason why I'm obsessed with dealing with balance type is not because I think it's the best type. Look, balance type gives you the most widespread of Pokemon from all different types, but it's not necessarily the best. Sometimes you want a specific one. The reason why I'm obsessed with balance type and explaining how that works is because everything else is determined from that. Again, only in my opinion. I don't have proof. This is just based on all the data I've looked at. So looking at Maddie here, mostly slumbering, moderate amount of snoozing, a little bit of dozing. So we're going to scroll through and see that it's largely the same. I've asked these members to only screenshot balanced, and you can see that for balance types, they all have about an average for themselves. So Maddie here is mostly slumbering. So what does that mean for Maddie? In order for Maddie to get actually slumbering style, they will have to sleep more slumbering than even 73%. They need to be more slumbering than their average. Which brings me to a new term that I've coined in my Discord, because this technique was founded, well, as far as I know, maybe they used someone else's method and called and I'm not aware of it, but it's founded by END. I'm calling it the END technique. What it is so what END does, and you can see here that 99% of the sleep on this day is slumbering, either because so that they were able to skew the stat to mostly slumbering, so it's all down here. All of the data is in slumbering, either by leaving their phone on a flat, motionless surface with no noise at all. But of course, there's going to be a limit, and I'll explain that in a moment. And what they did was made a little bit of noise in the middle of that night, of that sleep session, and completely skewed his average to slumbering. So you see that all these sessions of slumbering with almost zero snoozing or dozing at all has made it so that his balanced sleep type is actually quite slumbering. So look at the amount of slumbering mode he's got throughout the night, and this is considered his average. So his balanced type in subsequent sleeps. So if you're an absolute control freak and you want to be able to control what sleep style you get, this is one way to do it. The END technique, where for many nights you just go completely slumbering, because that's actually the easiest to control. What you do, you don't put it on your bed, you don't put the phone or the plus on your bed, you put it on a motionless surface with no sound at all. Now this motionless, soundless environment cannot stay for more than 4 to 6 hours. So you need to trigger a little bit of sound, maybe set an alarm to trigger on its own, or some sort of vibration in the middle of the night. So, but then, like for a short second or short minute, then go back to completely slumbering, no sound, no motion at all. Then you'll be able to get mostly slumbering. Do this for several nights, several weeks, and your balance will be heavily skewed towards slumbering. Then what you do is, in order to get snoozing and dozing, you either make a little bit of motion. So throughout maybe you start putting it back on your bed. You make a little bit of motion. Maybe start actually normally tracking your sleep. You should start getting snoozing. But if you make a lot of noise, a lot of motion, then you'll start getting dozing. But you won't be getting slumbering for some time, because your average has been skewed towards slumbering a lot. So you should, using the END technique, have more control over what you get. At least you've ruled out slumbering for some time, until, of course, the average gets dragged back towards the dozing, snoozing. Then you might need to do this again, where you put the device or the phone on tracking with complete motionless, soundless environment, so that your average becomes a heavily slumbering mode to get a balanced sleep style, like you see here, where slumbering is balanced. And I'm just going to show you like an overview of their balance. So this is all balanced. This is all balanced from END. You can see that it's actually mostly slumbering. If you look at all these data here, it's mostly slumbering, just to reinforce that point. Now, if you remember earlier, I said that 100% dozing tends to be an outlier type of sleep mode, and therefore the game just goes balanced. Whether that can ever happen with slumbering, I'm actually not sure. It seems like slumbering, even if you were able to do it 100%, even then, it doesn't seem to be considered an outlier. So you would only ever get slumbering if you sleep 100% slumbering. But then anything beyond 100% slumbering, so a little bit of other sleep modes, you start getting balanced. Rather than the fact that it's 100% slumbering causing the balance, because there's just not good data. So this is a different point to when I said 100% dozing is considered an outlier. And I just noticed that I've been saying sleep style when I meant sleep type, but I'm still going to say sleep mode for these down here, just to differentiate them. So now that you know how we can get a certain sleep type, say a balanced type, by consistently sleeping in the same way, in order for you to get your own average, how do we now affect this to get slumbering or dozing or snoozing? And in fact, what most resources out there trying to tell you is not this, the sleep type that you can get. What they're trying to tell you is how you can get more of each sleep mode. So most resources will say that if you make lots of noises, you would get more of dozing, then you'll get a dozing type. But that's not true, because if your average is a heavily dozing type, then that's just going to be balanced. But let's say you still want more dozing because you want a higher chance to at least be better than your average in the dozing department. So what would you do? So this is where the resources out there is accurate, but I'm going to tell you what my members do. So as I said before, so this is a post from Angel of Death. As I said before, slumbering is just no movement, not much at all. So you don't really want to put that on your bed if you want to have more slumbering mode, because you will be tossing and turning as you sleep. So what you do is, if you've got a nightstand or a table, or even putting the phone up against a hard surface on your bed, so maybe the bed frame, basically minimizing any movement, but also turning off any fans or any loud noises surrounding, you will get more slumbering mode. In fact, this is super easy to achieve if you've got the PokeGo Plus, because you can just leave it in another room. You can start tracking maybe an hour earlier than usual. Just leave it on a table or on a bed. You go back to doing your nighttime activities. You come back and you would have recorded an hour of slumbering. Then you want to move it a little bit, because slumbering cannot be recorded for more than 4 to 6 hours at a time, because it will think that you're dead. It's not possible, apparently, according to the app, that a human would not move at all for more than 4 to 6 hours. So one way you can automatically have that sort of extra motion detected in the middle of the night, if you leave it on a nightstand or a hard surface, just so it doesn't stop tracking, maybe set an alarm, like so that you don't wake up, but a very soft alarm or a little vibration in the middle of the night, just to have it run for like a half a minute. Then it will continue tracking in the slumbering mode. Now, to get snoozing, it's understood that it's a little bit of movement, not too much, little bit. A little bit of noise is okay. And what some people have theorized is that if you put the PokeGo Plus at a 45-degree angle lying against a bed frame, it seems to nerf the amount of movement detected. And I'll show you what I mean. So Rachi here, so this is what they normally do, putting on a flat surface for slumbering, and it's a hard surface, so it can't really move. Rachi's put it up at a 45-degree angle up against the wall, so that it still detects some movement, but the movement detected is minimal compared to when it's flat against the bed, to get snoozing. And the final technique to get more dozing, what they do is, you want to maximize the amount of movement detected during your sleep, is they put it in their pillow, because right up against your head is where most movement will be detected. There is a risk with that, and you'll see that they've actually covered the device with another case. And the reason is because if you're rolling around, you're going to hit that end track sleep button, and then in the middle of the night, you just have ended your sleep session, and you don't want that. So you want to make sure that the case completely protects the button from being pressed. If you were doing this with your phone though, and I don't recommend this, there could be overheating problems. You're setting yourself up for a fire hazard. So I don't recommend compromising your safety just to get dozing type. And this is similar to what Angel of Death is saying. You want to maximize your movement. So in other words, put the phone or the device, the plus device, as close to your head as possible, but don't put it in a place where you can suddenly end track sleep. So get a case for your plus. Once again, this is the most difficult to make videos so far, so that's why it took me so long to talk about it. I still don't have a perfect solution. I just know that, if you understand your own balance type, you'll be able to affect your slumbering or your snoozing or dozing better using the techniques I just gave you from my members. To me, I don't really care, to be honest. Whatever sleep style I get, whatever sleep type I get in the morning is what I get. I know the game will try to average it out for me anyway. It's too much hassle to have to deal with this every day. But if you're trying to game the system, if you want, mostly Ghastlies, mostly Pikachus, or mostly a baby Pokemon to spawn, then this is what you got to do. If you have any more tips or you want to contribute more data to this research, come join us on our Discord or leave a comment in the comment section down below. Thank you for watching. Please leave a like and subscribe to my channel.